what's really happening in the real estate market? We're gonna talk about that right now. It's Alex Fung here, Daryl King Team, Remax Hallmark. I just wanna wish you guys Happy New Year. Hope you guys are doing very well. Hope you got to celebrate with your family and friends. And so let's just dive right into the real estate market, okay? So before we do, it's good to put into perspective, how is the real estate market compared to the stock market and the crypto market? And the good thing and the good news I have for you is that it actually outperformed both of those asset classes quite considerably. The stock market actually in the same time period of January 2022 versus January 2023, it actually dropped by over 34%, okay? And in the crypto market, it actually dropped by 78%. So it's all about perspective here, okay? How have we done versus the other two, okay? Now, the other aspect that we need to consider is the foreign buyer ban, okay, introduced by the federal government. So starting in January, okay, foreigners are not able to buy homes for up to 2 years, okay? And, you know, there's not a lot of comment about that from the government, okay? But because it's Ontario and based on, you know, there's lots of immigration that happens here, a record breaking, okay? Last year we had over 400,000 immigrants coming to Canada, okay? So it's very interesting to see what's happening, okay? And the second thing that we need to think about too, though, is how, as an investor and as a foreigner, there are ways to get around the foreign buyer ban, okay? Before I begin though, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant, but based on my interpretation from, you know, the website and what they're saying is that you can get around that as a corporation, right? If a Canadian majority holder owns a corporation as a foreigner, you can buy a home. But that leads to the second hurdle, which is the provincial government, where they introduced a 25% foreign buyer tax. So, you know, you may still have to pay that tax, and, you know, as an investor, that might not be the best for you, right? You might look at other provinces, you might want to look at other countries, okay? So it is expected for the market to continue to cool down, okay? So one of the things that we need to look at too is the interest rates. Are they going to go up? Now, there's lots of mixed feelings about that. Okay, Desjardins says that it's going to stay the same, and TD believes it's going to go up on January 25th. So nobody really knows what's happening, okay? Before, you know, the rate hikes, the interest rates were pretty much free, right? It was free money. It was 0.25, okay? Now it's about 4.25. So that's a big increase in such a very short period of time, okay, within that year. So are homeowners struggling right now? The ones that purchased homes and, you know, in February, you know, March, they are feeling the crunch, okay? They're seeing their mortgage payments, especially if they got a variable rate, they're feeling the pinch. Okay, now, before we really dive into the numbers here, we need to think about, you know, if you've done any home improvements, any upgrades, your location, any local amenities. These factors really affect the type of the prices on your home, okay? And so every neighborhood is very unique. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, but let's just get right into it. All right, so the Vaughan markets, right? So very similar to what happens to other parts of Ontario, okay? December was very slow. It was 138 transactions versus the year before, 272. That's about a 50% decrease in the number of transactions that happens. But there is something to note as well, where there's 429 homes available versus the previous month, which is 588, okay? Now, that's a 15% increase of available listings at the peak of 374. So if you're a homeowner and you're looking to buy a home in Vaughan, right, there's a lot more options. There's a lot more negotiating room, right? You can negotiate on the price, of course, but also the terms, right? You can also include financing contingencies. You can also include, you know, inspection contingencies, things that you weren't able to do back in February, okay? So yes, February was high prices, but you had less flexibility, okay? Now, in terms of the type of market, okay, it's still actually a seller's market. A lot of people are confused about this, even real estate agents that I'm doing deals with, right? People are thinking it's still a buyer's market, but it's not at all, okay? What we look at here, the type of market is looking at is number of transactions versus number of homes that are available on the market. And anything less than 5 is a seller's market, but from 5 to 6, it's a balanced market, and from 6 and onwards is a buyer's market. So you can still see here that it's still a seller's market. But if you compare that number versus February, of 0.84, you can see that there's a big change. Okay, 270%. Okay, within that time period. It's not that long, okay, not even a year. And so if you look at the type of market, 3.11 versus pre-pandemic 2.32, right? So you can still see that it's actually shifted more so of a balanced market now than it was pre-pandemic. And you might be saying, Alex, of course it is. But you might be surprised. There are other parts of Ontario that's not the case. Like if you look at Aurora, it's still more of a seller's market now than it was pre-pandemic. Nobody really wanted to go to Aurora. Now it's okay in terms of days on market, 29 days to sell a home, right? Versus pre-pandemic 33 days. Okay, so that's 12% faster to sell a home now than it was pre-pandemic. But if you look at the February figures, obviously it's taken 26% more, 23 days to sell a home in Vaughan. So there's definitely more room for negotiating. Now looking at detached, right? So detached homes, 60 transactions that happened in December versus 119 the year before. That's a 50% decrease. Okay, and if you look at all-time high of February, there's a 71% decrease. Okay, and if you look at even pre-pandemic numbers, right, 23% less sales are happening now than pre-pandemic numbers. So in terms of active listings, the number of homes that are available, right, you can see here is 187 versus a month before 273. That's quite a big difference, okay, in one single month. And if you look at December 2021, the year before, is 120% more listings now than a year ago, okay? And it's about the same with the all-time high of February, okay, of 189. Now prices have started to soften, okay, for detaches. It's about a 13% correction from February versus December, okay? So it was very interesting to note because if you look at the month before in November, it's at 1.7 million and it went up by 12%, okay? So there's 60 transactions versus 109. It's very interesting to note here, a big change. In terms of the type of market, it's still a seller's market, a 3.12, and it's taking 7 additional days to sell in December versus November, okay? Now for semi-detaches, you know, there's lots of transactions that did not happen, right? There's 9 sales versus 30 compared to February, okay? Very similar to pre-pandemic numbers of 12, but still decrease. Okay, it's 25%, but you know, 9 versus 12, not big drop if you look at number-wise. In terms of the active listings too, though, it's interesting to note there's less listings again in December, but it's still more listings compared to December 2021, where there's only 2 homes that are available. Like that's a big change, okay? And if you look at the pricing as well, you know, that 20% decrease in prices compared to February versus December. And in terms of the type of market, it's still a seller's market, okay? And it's still a seller's market, but it's less so compared to the major time periods that we're looking at here, okay? In terms of days on market, it's selling quick. It did sell quicker in December versus November. Okay, that's a 35% faster to sell a home. Obviously, in February, homes are selling like pancakes, hotcakes. Okay. In terms of townhouses, okay, 17 transactions, same compared to a month-to-month basis. But in terms of February figures, obviously it dropped by 75%. Huge drop. Okay. In terms of, you know, a year-to-year numbers, 37 transactions versus 17, it's a 54% decrease. And if you compare it on a pre-pandemic numbers, it's still less transactions now than December 2019. Okay, in terms of listings, right, there's less listings in December again versus November, and very similar though figures compared to February, okay, 46. And in terms of December 2021, there are less listings back then than there are now. So again, there's lots of more room for negotiating, okay guys and girls. In terms of type of market, interesting to know on a month-to-month basis, it did switch back to a seller's market, even more so, 3.06 versus 2.53. And compare it to December of 2021, right, which is even lower than February, of 0.32. And now it's taking about 3 weeks, 2 weeks to 3 weeks to sell a home, a townhouse in Vaughan. Okay, so the condo apartments is something that's interesting to note too, because there are a lot of homes that did sell, 42 versus 48, and February is 125. Okay, lots of transactions that happened back then. Now it's less so, but it's very similar to pre-pandemic numbers of 41. Okay, in terms of active listings, there are less listings now than there were on month-to-month basis, but more so in February and December. Okay. In terms of average prices did go up on a month-to-month basis of over 3%. And in terms of February figures, it only dropped by about 7%. Okay, so condo price apartments, we're seeing less drop on compared to all-time highs. They're retaining their value more, okay? But they've gone up about 30% pre-pandemic. For the condo townhouses, okay, 9 transactions versus 8 on a month-to-month basis. 23 actual listings available versus 37. And if you look at compared to all-time high of February, there's only 8 listings available back in February. Okay, in terms of type of market, it's still more so of a balanced market. It's still a seller's market. Okay, in November it dropped. You can see there's a big change from 4.63 to 2.56, but bear in mind that there's only 9 versus 8 transactions. Like, the numbers aren't significant enough, okay? And prices went only down by 2% of 810,000. If you compare to, February, it dropped by 21%. But again, 20 transactions is not a big number of transactions, so there are anomalies that probably happened, which is causing such a big influx, okay? So if you find this information useful, please like it, share it, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be happy to help you out. If you have any questions, take care. Bye-bye.